than most Americans understand, because it's basically never covered here. Here are the facts. More than 23,000 people were murdered in Mexico just last year as drug cartels continue to fight each other and the Mexican government. Meanwhile, drugs continue to pour across the American border in massive amounts, killing tens of thousands of Americans. Now, fear of letting this chaos into our country is one of the reasons the Trump administration has called for tougher immigration laws and a border wall. Not everybody is on board, to put it mildly. We recently discussed this issue with Jorge Ramos. He's a Univision anchor and champion of the oppressed south of the border. Here it is. When last we spoke, you said that the United States has 11 million illegal immigrants within its borders because of supply and demand, and it's America's fault that these people are here. They were lured by jobs. But there's a flip side to it, which is that the remittances paid by Mexican citizens back to Mexico are the largest source of cash in Mexico, higher than its oil export revenue.
That is true.
So Mexico desperately needs American money sent back by illegal aliens here. Why shouldn't we blame the government of Mexico for that?
Well, first of all, I don't call them illegal aliens. No human being is illegal. Let me just start.
Except the people who are here illegally, they're illegal.
Well, they're here, but we don't call illegal companies those who hire them. So I don't use the term illegal. You can use it if you want to.
It's actually the legal term in U.S. government documents, so I'm just going to go ahead and go with the accurate description. But okay, let's get to the point of it.
And I'll go with a moral point of view that you should not call anyone illegal.
Except those who are illegal, and I'm going to go ahead and not be bullied and just call them what they are. But the point is, look, the government of Mexico couldn't exist without them. That's the point.
Well, they do get billions of dollars from Mexican citizens in the United States. That is true. But the point is that undocumented immigrants are here, Tucker, because of us. We need them. You might want to admit it or not, but we need them. It's simply a matter of supply and demand. And whenever you go to get a service or to a hotel or to a restaurant, we are being served by them.
I know you're big on lecturing Americans on their moral failings, but what about the moral failings of the Mexican government, which is corrupt, parts of it are controlled by the drug cartels, it doesn't serve the needs of its own people, and it hasn't for almost 100 years, and yet it's 100% America's fault and not the fault of the Mexican government, which uses illegal immigration as a pressure relief valve? That's what's happening, and you know it.
Yeah, I think you chose the wrong guest to defend the Mexican government, because I've been criticizing the Mexican government for decades. The Mexican government, it is really corrupt. In the last year, I was checking the numbers. More than 20,000 people have been killed because of violence in Mexico. And we're going to have elections in Mexico on July the 1st, and I hope that changes. But I'm no one to defend the Mexican government. There's a lack of democracy. There's a lack of transparency. There's a lot of corruption. There's really nothing to defend about the President Peña Nieto.
But in effect you are, because you're saying that our illegal immigration problems are our fault, when in fact abetting illegal immigration is the policy of the Mexican government. The single largest source of heroin in the United States is Mexico. The leading cause of death for people under 50 is heroin OD. So why shouldn't we be angry at the government of Mexico for allowing this to happen here?
Well, because there's a different way of seeing that. You are seeing it as Mexico is responsible for the drugs coming to this country, and the way people in Mexico and the way people in Colombia and in other Latin American countries, the way they see it is that as long as you have 20 to 25 million Americans who use continuously illegal drugs, there's again a problem of supply and demand. And it doesn't matter what you do at the border. It doesn't matter if you have a huge wall. Drugs are going to keep on coming. So
that's what the drug dealer tells himself to sleep at night. He says it's not my fault, it's the junkie's fault. Right. So if you flood a community with illegal drugs, do you think drug use and ODs go up? I mean, that's a rhetorical question, because the answer is, of course, yes. So why blame the victim here? I don't understand.
Well,
no, it's not the way to see it. It's the empirical truth.
Tucker, if you have 20 or 25 million Americans who've used an illegal drug in the last month, what are you going to do? I mean, unless you change the consumption, nothing's going to change.
Because if I dropped a ton of heroin into your zip code, do you think you would see a higher rate of heroin addiction? And do you think that would be the fault of your children and your neighbors? No, it would be my fault.
It is not only that you drop it. The fact is that people are asking for that. Illegal drug users in the United States
15-year-olds are desperate for cheap heroin. No, I mean, look, let's be honest. Not building a wall is not making the problem better. People are dying as a result of it. No, the wall won't help.
That the wall
Really?
would be completely useless.
How do you know that? So let's take a look at walls through history. How many have been completely useless? Let's see, none.
Let me give you just a few arguments here.
Okay.
According to Pew Research Center, almost 45% of all undocumented immigrants come by plane or with a visa. So it doesn't matter how long or wide
almost
your wall
how many?
would be.
What percent?
Almost 45%. You can check it.
So what about? No. I think that number's right. I think that number's right. But there's still 500,000 people, more than, apprehended at the border every year on foot. That doesn't account for all the people who made it across. You have hundreds of thousands of people coming, some unknown number, coming across with no wall, and you have tons and tons of drugs. So why is it immoral to try and stop that?
Because the idea that you are giving your audience and the idea that President Trump is giving the American people is that we are being invaded by Mexico. That is not true. More Mexicans actually are leaving the United States than coming to this country.
I'm not saying we're being invaded. I'm saying tons of drugs and hundreds of thousands of people are... I'm not saying there is. I'm saying
there's no invasion.
Tons of heroin and hundreds of thousands of people are coming across, and many of them would be stopped by the wall. So why is it immoral to put a lock on our front door? I don't understand. Why should we be scolded for wanting to protect our own country? I don't get that.
I agree with you. Every single country has the right to secure borders. I have no problem with that.
But you're arguing against the wall.
That the wall that President Trump wants to build, and that apparently you're supporting, would be completely useless. First of all, there's no invasion coming from Mexico. Second, it's not true that hundreds of thousands of people are coming to this country, because the undocumented population has remained stable. The undocumented population has remained stable in this country for the last decade, and third, Mexico, of course, won't pay for that.
First of all, we don't really know what the undocumented so-called population is, because they're here illegally. No. As a factual matter, we don't.
It's true. We do. The Census Bureau,
look,
the government.
The point is, you've got 11 million at least. Could be 20. We don't know. But there are more than 10 million people here illegally.
They're here illegally. 11 million.
We'll say 11 million.
Those
people are living proof that we don't have control of our border. And I hope that you'll just sum it up for me in one sentence, because we're running out of time. Why is it a bad idea to build a wall to stop some percentage of those people, some percentage of the heroin, when every other wall in every other country on planet Earth has had an effect in stopping people and drugs from getting into the country it separates? I don't understand.
Because it's a myth to believe that the border right now is more insecure. It's a myth. And then, as long as you have millions of consumers of illegal drugs in this country, drugs are going to keep on coming from ports of entry or through tunnels. That's on one hand.
Let's just build the wall, and we'll see. We can come back and kind of assess its effectiveness
if you come by plane, trucker.
Okay, that's great. All right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.